Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing a new book that has just recently come out, and that is none other than The Betrothed by Kiera Cass, which is the first book in the Betrothed series. I don't know how many books are actually going to come out in the series, but this is the first one. So The Betrothed by Kiera Cass follows a young girl called Hollis who lives in a royal court with her parents. And basically the King Jameson has kind of like taken a liking to her. He's been flirting with her. You can definitely tell that he's like doting on her. And basically she and everyone else thinks that she's going to become his newest fiance, that he's going to marry her. And it's basically just like about her life at court. It's about her relationship to the king, her relationship to her, I guess, like handmaiden Delia Grace, as well as the other people who live at the court. This book also follows certain political tensions between the country that they live in, Croa, and the Isoltans or Isoltans. There are basically some political tensions between King Jameson and King Quentin of Isolta. It sounded a lot like The Selection to me when I first read the synopsis. I was like, oh my goodness, a Kiera Cass book in a royal court and like arrangement, like marriages and whatever. And I was like, I was so excited for this book, which is why it really pains me to say that I didn't really like this book. I gave it 2 stars out of 5. I don't know what's going on with like May 2020 releases. Like this book, as well as A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, 2 of my most anticipated releases of this year and of like probably many years to come, have just really disappointed me. My non-spoilery review of this is that I genuinely was incredibly bored while reading this book. I thought Hollis was a very uninteresting character. I definitely don't think that she had anything interesting about her, that brought any kind of spunk to the table. I do understand that like in a real court, there aren't gonna be girls that are like super strong and warrior-like and like, whatever. Like, I understand that the women that, are being portrayed in like this sort of like royal setting are going to be women who are maybe more in line with like a traditional feminine womanhood. But even so, I just didn't feel like she had any character. I felt like she was very boring compared to America, from The Selection, who had, a strong will, like a lot of good convictions, good beliefs. She stood up for herself. And I just feel like Hollis didn't bring anything like that to the table. I also felt like the plot was also just like kind of boring. It did deal a lot with like certain political tension, but even so, I just found myself to be incredibly disinterested. The book was slow, and then as the ending happened, everything picked up super fast, and the book ended with this like kind of like semi-crazy cliffhanger or like crazy thing that happened at the end of the book. And I honestly just felt like that plot point was put in the book just for like a shock factor, which I know is probably not the reason why Kiera Cass put that in the book. I don't want to like put any words into her mouth. I don't want to make any assumptions about her own writing and like why she writes things. But from a reader's perspective, like I can only judge this book by like the book itself. I can't really judge like what her intentions were. And I just felt like the ending just felt fast, super unnecessary. Like she added in the shock value that I feel like only brought the shock value to the table and didn't bring anything else. Overall, I was very disappointed with this read, and I'm really sorry. This book is also kind of like presented as this love triangle between her, King Jameson, and this other young man that comes to the court, and I just wasn't feeling it. The love triangle between America, Maxon, and Aspen was just so well done and super interesting. I like genuinely, when I was reading The Selection, I didn't know whether to root for Aspen or for Maxon at the beginning of the series, and I was hoping to feel certain like similar feelings that I felt when reading The Selection when I was reading The Betrothed, but I just didn't feel like any of that. I didn't feel like Hollis and King Jameson had any chemistry. I also didn't feel like Hollis and the new love interest had any chemistry as well. There was a lot of insta-love. I felt like a lot of it was just super fast, like, okay, now we're in love, and like, okay, now I want to leave him, and like things like that, and snap, and then like I didn't like it. That is pretty much as I can say for this book. I will be reading the second book. I don't know if I'm actually going to be buying a physical copy. I might just buy it like on my Kindle and not bother actually buying the book. Either way, I was very disappointed. I didn't like the book very much. And that's pretty much all I can say about it, unfortunately. Now I'm gonna get into some spoilers, so if you don't want to get spoiled, or if you haven't read the book yet and you don't want to get spoiled, then I want to go say read the book and then come back, but I don't even want to say that, so do what you must, but don't watch this if you don't want to get spoiled. Let me start off this spoiler section on a more positive note, and that is that I loved Queen Valentina. She was by far the most interesting, complex, deep character in the book. I was really taken by her story and by her courage and by, you know, the pain that she had suffered. I would have really loved to have read more about her. I really think that the story could have been so much better if it would have been written from her perspective and not from Hollis's perspective. Kiera Cass could have written such an interesting story with her as the main character. I would totally be down for the second book just being from her POV, but I don't think that's what's gonna happen. But you know, if Kiera Cass ever wants to write like a novella or another part of the series from her perspective, like I would so be down for that. I also really loved the development of Hollis and Valentina's relationship. I feel like in their talks, in their moments together, I feel like Hollis's true character really did come out, and she was a lot more interesting as a character than just like throughout the whole book. So that was also something that I enjoyed about this book. Queen Valentina, super awesome character. What I didn't like about this book though was just how like fake the friendship between Hollis and Delia Grace was. I mean, I just don't understand. Like, I do know that, you know, maybe in like these like royal courts where you're trying to like win over the king's heart, there's gonna be like a bit of tension between like the women, people who like want like the king's attention or whatever, but I just feel like the relationship between Delia Grace and Hollis was just so manipulative on Delia Grace's side. Like, I do understand that Hollis maybe wasn't super sensitive to Delia Grace's own pain and past and hurt and stuff, but Delia Grace like was a terrible friend to her. Like, she manipulated her, she didn't care about Hollis. It was shown over and over again that she would choose her own well-being and her own standing and reputation over Hollis's like well-being like any day, and I am just so not down for toxic relationships and toxic friendships. I think that that's shit, basically. And I just don't understand why Delia Grace and Hollis like were still friends by the end of the book, because it was made perfectly clear that Delia Grace was basically just trying to outsmart her throughout the book. I don't know what was going on. I felt like that was just a really bad friendship. And then the romance between Hollis and Silas. I didn't like the romance between the two of them. I feel like it had great potential. I feel like Kiera Cass could have started the book with like a bit of tension and then added some more tension, and then, you know, they have feelings that they don't want to admit, but it was just so insta-lovey. Like, he came to the castle, they had a couple conversations, and then suddenly she was like, right, I'm gonna leave the king, we should run away together. And they actually ran away together, and I genuinely did not think that they were gonna run away together. And then not only that, they run away together, which could have added an amazing like another tense plot for them to like have to survive being away from the king. But no, the king is like, you know what, I'm really happy for you, like here's some money, like go have fun with your life. Like, he's a bit sad, he's hoping to win her back, but he's genuinely like really nice to her. And I was like, there is just no tension in this book. There's no like interesting plot, there's nothing like that is making me want to root for these characters because they have no obstacles to face. Do you guys know what I mean? Then the end came and they get married, and then suddenly these people come and they kill everyone and Silas is dead, and like I was just like, this is not the way to add some sort of interesting plot into the story when you've had, you know, 250 out of the 300 pages or whatever of just like really boringness. Like, it was just bad. I didn't care much for it. Even though this book was boring and I didn't like it so much, I did write down a couple of like speculations or predictions that I'm going to speculate about and predict for the next book. The first prediction is that I don't think that Silas is really dead. I would think that if he is dead, that would have been like the most uninteresting character development and romance development that I've ever seen, like ever. So I'm hoping that he's not dead, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm also hoping that they will travel, like Hollis and her newfound family, like Mrs. Eastoff, you know, they become really good friends. I genuinely hope that they will travel to more places than just Isolta. There is a map in the front of the book where you can see that this country has a lot of different places, or not this country, but this continent has a lot of different countries. And I would be really interested in learning more about the world and like the different kinds of people that live in this world. However, I'm going to also assume that probably in the next couple, like in the next book or next couple books, they're probably only going to travel to Isolta. Isolt, I don't know how to pronounce it, because that that is basically where they're going off to in the end. I genuinely think, and this is my biggest speculation, that Hollis is actually a bastard child, and that her mother, her real mother or her real father, I'm gonna assume her real father, is actually from Isolde or Isolde. It would also explain why her mother like doesn't like her very much and her parents are just basically pieces of shit to her. Namely for two reasons. It speaks about Hollis's hair being considered much blonder than normal for the Kiroas, and that her blonde hair is considered a rarity among them. And then also on page 146, it speaks about Hollis and Scarlett, who is the sister of Silas, looking as if they could pass for sisters. It's just interesting to me that these two things have been dropped like as comments. And now I don't know whether this is like foreshadowing or anything, but it would make sense that Hollis might be half Isolde because Scarlett is Isolde, which again would add interesting depth to the whole story, that like she isn't actually Kiroan. That would also, yeah, like explain why her mother doesn't like her very much, or her parents. It speaks a lot about how Hollis thinks that her parents would despise the fact that she was born a woman and not a man, but it could also be that they despise the fact that she was born half Isolde and not full Kiroan. I'm not sure. They're definitely also very manipulative, and just this book as a whole was just not the best like representation of like healthy relationships and like good friendships, and that was also just like very disappointing to me. That was it for my review. I can't really say anything more than that. I'm interested in knowing like what's gonna happen in the second book, but I'm not keeping my hopes very high for the book, unfortunately. If you guys have read this book and would like to leave your own opinion down below, then I would encourage you guys to do that. I would be very interested in hearing like what you guys think of this book or what you thought about this book. But that was it for my review. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you guys are having a great morning, afternoon, night, evening, wherever you are in the world, and I will see you guys with a new video soon. Bye!